Now to an unusual incident in North Carolina that is under police investigation. Virginia State running back Lamont Britt was arrested Friday and charged with misdemeanor assault, inflicting serious injury. Britt is accused of leaving Winston-Salem State quarterback Rudy Johnson badly beaten following a bathroom fight during a luncheon for both teams, one day before they were to play for the CIAA championship. As a result, Saturday's game was canceled. Johnson, who says he was beaten by as many as 6 players, was treated and released from a local hospital. Today, he met with reporters.
Your pride in our athletics program is greatly appreciated. We're committed to restoring your faith and your trust in our program.
I go into wash my hands, and somebody tapped me on my back, on my shoulder. As soon as I turn around, I got hit. So I square him up, and then when I square him up, somebody else hit me in my blind side on my head, and that's when I fell, and I fell about 4 or 5 feet, stumping on me and kicking me.
When I found out what had happened and I learned that the president of Virginia State was not present, I simply walked up to the coach and asked him, did he know how I might get in touch with Keith Miller? And he went completely berserk. And during the time that the chief of police was trying to quell the disturbance and get him to get his players under control, he was more out of control than his players were. As a result of that, I said to Chief Norris, if he doesn't settle down, arrest him.
I wish it never happened. I was willing to play them on the field. I was ready to play them on the field. I just don't think they were.
The Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association ruled that Virginia State is ineligible for the NCAA Division II playoffs. Meanwhile, Johnson and his Winston-Salem State teammates face Slippery Rock in a first-round game on Saturday. With more on this developing situation, we welcome to Outside the Lines Donal Ware, host of the nationally syndicated radio show From the Press Box to Press Row on Sirius XM. Also joining us today is John Dell, who has covered the CIAA for the last 18 years for the Winston-Salem Journal in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here today. And John, let me begin with you. Tell us, what led to this fight?
Well, it was unusual circumstances, to say the least. He was asked if he was a starting quarterback when he went into the bathroom, and sure enough, he said yes. And he got hit, and that's when it all started. And it was at a luncheon, and like you said, it was just something that I've never seen. 26 years of being a sports writer, it's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard of.
So, John, there was no trash talking leading up to this incident, as far as you know?
As far as I know, there was a little bit going on. It was a small room, and there was one line for them to eat, so they were kind of together a little bit, maybe too close. If that was the fault of this, I don't know, but there was a little trash talking going on, but nothing as tense as it got after, obviously, Rudy was attacked. And I think after that, there was a lot been made about them canceling the game. But I went there after the luncheon, and they weren't going to play that game because something would have happened, and it would have been live on TV, and the cameras would have been there. So it was a right call not to play because it was beyond tense. And I think they made the right call, but it definitely got out of hand, and it was just a luncheon.
Okay, more on that game in just a bit, John, but let me turn to Donal. And why don't you tell us, Donal, what you know about this situation, as well as, when was the last time you saw anything like this? If ever?
I've never, and Michael, I appreciate you having me. I've never seen anything like this. The question I would ask is what precipitated this, and what happened to this young man is inexcusable. It should have never happened at all. But I would ask the question because I've seen, Winston-Salem State kind of has this with the football team, kind of this bravado. And I've seen this actually with my own eyes and at various press conferences. You go back 2 weeks ago, they were playing Shaw. It was at Winston-Salem State. Shaw had a 15-yard penalty called against them because of some trash talking that was going on. Happened a week ago against Fayetteville State. They didn't get involved in it. So that should have never happened to that young man. I want to be clear about that. But I would ask, and there's still a lot of questions I think that need to be answered, what precipitated this confrontation?
Okay, seems like both of you are still, like many of us, still searching for answers as far as that topic is concerned. So let's move on to this, John. Tell us, how will the injuries affecting Rudy Johnson impact his play for Saturday's game against Slippery Rock?
Well, from what I understand, they practiced this morning. He practiced a little bit He says he wants to play. He's been the starter all season. He's 9-0 as a starter. He moved in the second game. I think he's going to play on Saturday. He's a tough kid, and I've followed the team. I've been covering Winston-Salem State for 18 years, and if I would pick a guy who would get into a fight, it wouldn't be Rudy, because he's laid back. He's from San Diego, but he's a tough kid. So I think he'll rebound from this. And I know, Winston-Salem State, they wanted to play the game, and it just didn't happen. And some other reports that I heard was he went into the bathroom and they asked him if he was the starting quarterback, and he said yes, and that's when he got hit. So I don't know if it was premeditated or not, but it was something that, like Donald said, it never should have happened to this young man.
Yeah, and Donald, what about Virginia State? What were their chances of winning had they played this game on Saturday?
I thought they had an outstanding chance, quite frankly. I thought it would be an upset. I predicted that it would be an upset. These are two very good football teams. I've seen both of them play. I thought Virginia State had an outstanding team. I thought they had an opportunity to make the playoffs. And I thought with the CIAA denying them that opportunity, I don't agree with that. I don't think that was the right move because of the actions of one individual. I do not believe, and again, I wasn't there, but I don't think it represents Virginia State University as a whole and what Latrell Scott, their head football coach, stands for. So I didn't agree with the fact that they were deemed ineligible for the Division II playoffs.
John, why don't you weigh in on that? What are your thoughts there as far as Virginia State being eliminated by the conference from continuing their season?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I believe that if they weren't eliminated by the CIAA telling them they were ineligible, they wouldn't have made the playoffs if they didn't play the game. I believe they would have got pushed out at number 6 by some teams below them that pushed them out of the rankings. So I don't think they would have made the playoffs unless they played the game and won. I don't think, even though they were disqualified by the conference, I don't think they would have made the playoffs anyway.
So, but what do you say about the parents who argued that they should have just suspended or punished the players involved in this incident, not the entire team?
Well, that's the thing. Parents, it's their right to do that, and I understand where parents are coming from. We get it at every level. All the hard work that all these kids have done, it's for naught now. And when they were deemed ineligible, it kind of put a bad name on Virginia State, and put a bad name in Winston-Salem State, quite frankly. And that's you don't want that. But I just think that it's a team sport, and when a team one of the players messes up like that. But if you ask Winston-Salem State, it was more than one player. So it's a he said thing. So it comes down to what's best for the both schools, and I thought it was the right move not to play the game.
Okay. Hey, Donald, we got 15 seconds here. These are longtime conference rivals. What concerns are there this might carry over to other sports or to football next season?
I don't think there are many concerns. We saw this some years back between A&T and Central, although they've since rectified that. But I think the CIAA will put measures in place so that this, in fact, doesn't happen again. I don't see this being a big issue.
Well, let's hope not. All right, Donal Ware and John Dell, thank you so much for joining us today here on Outside the Lines. A reminder to check out our Facebook page to leave your comments about today's topics, facebook.com/OTL. Follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at MKimESPN. Also listen to the show on Sirius XM Radio, Channel 85, and download the podcast at ESPN.com and free at iTunes.